Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has taken the gaming world by storm. It is crazy to see the response that this game has gotten. A hugely popular and successful game, getting 10s out of 10s from seemingly everywhere. Everyone seems to think this game is absolutely revolutionary. And while I do think it's pretty good, I also don't think it's that great. Let's talk about why. You know what is great? Liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Now, to get the good out of the way first, I still really liked Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and ironically it will still probably be my game of the year at this point, and if not, it'll definitely make my list of games of the year. Visually, this game is incredible. The characters look fantastic. The emotion that they're able to convey, the cinematography, the lighting, in the cutscenes especially. It doesn't even feel like a game. It really does feel like you are watching a movie when you get to the cutscenes. It was very impressive, especially considering this is a small studio and it's their first game. They really were able to do something special with the game's visuals. Clair Obscur is a turn-based RPG game with some real-time elements in its combat. As you attack, you have to hit quick-time events to do more damage, and when the enemies attack, you can either dodge or parry their attacks to ensure that you don't take damage and possibly even do damage back to them. It's a system reminiscent of the Mario RPG games or some other classics like Legend of Dragoon on the PS1, and it works well here for the most part. Some of the enemies can be really difficult to time, and even when you feel like you have a good grip on a specific enemy's moveset, when the battle gets close or tense, it's easy to choke up. The problem I have always had with a system like this is it's very hard to balance. If the player can essentially dodge all damage from even the hardest, most difficult endgame boss, then the difficulty really has to come from either having a lot of health on the enemy, or when you take damage, that you take a lot of damage, leaving only some room for error. For the most part, the game feels pretty good, but there are some bosses, especially some of the optional bosses, that just feel a little unfair in that if you mess up once, your party is wiped, even if you are possibly even over-leveled going into it. The characters are all pretty unique. They each have totally unique playstyles that synergize both within their own skills, but also with the skills of your other party members. And the nice thing is that all party members earn experience as you go, so you're never punished for trading people in and out of your party, and it does let you experiment a little bit more with each of them. I would say the combat in the game is definitely its strongest aspect. It never gets old, even through the game's almost 30-hour runtime, mostly thanks to the fact that each enemy does have such a different skill set. So each combat does really play out differently in that you have to be adapting to their specific moves to dodge and parry them. There's just that extra level of interactivity that this system brings with it that elevates the combat from others in the genre. Unfortunately, I ended up being pretty mixed on the story. I think it starts really well. You play as the expedition, people in this world where the paintress, who seems to be some kind of god figure, kills everyone above a certain age. At this point, we're down to 33 years, giving the expedition its namesake. The story starts on a really strong note, beginning with what they call the gommage, the yearly occurrence where the paintress erases a good number of the population. It's emotional, it doesn't feel forced, it connects you with the characters, you see what's at stake, and I think they do a really good job of that. The first couple hours or so of this game are definitely its strongest narratively. You get very invested very quickly in the characters in your party and on this expedition. Unfortunately, I felt like they didn't have enough story for this kind of an RPG game, and so there's a lot of really impactful emotional moments, but there's not enough of them, and they're spread out far too thin across the game's playtime. As you go, there'll be some interludes where you go to camp and you're able to talk to some of the characters, but these scenes just don't really carry the same weight of the main narrative. I also found that there was just a little too much of a tonal imbalance between these impactful emotional moments in the story. I get that serious and dark stories still need moments of levity and humor, but this game goes a little too far in trying to counterbalance the darkness. There are a lot of funny moments, sure, but they feel out of place when these characters who are in such a dire situation, such a hopeless situation, are at the same time so casually joking and laughing with one another. I wish more of these beats had weight and impact towards the main story versus just being fun little ways to see the characters interact with one another. I was really excited at the beginning of the story. It sets itself up very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This idea of limited time, not living very long, trying to free yourself from this cycle of destruction. But unfortunately, in the game's second half, when you learn a little more about the Paintress and the world, it didn't resonate with me. I don't want to spoil, but essentially, the Paintress is God, and you are fighting against God, classic JRPG trope. But rather than really exploring this idea of what is a creation to a god, does that give you meaning because you're just a creation? They really could have explored a lot of theological and philosophical ideas here and instead focused in on personal loss and family drama. And I just felt so empty and hollow. If there was so much more impact that could have been had with some of the larger themes that the game does touch on, but doesn't really dig into as much as I would have liked. And the more I played it, the more I realized that while this game is really good, it does just feel like it's copying the homework of those who came before it. Which is ironic since the characters love to say, for those who come after. The story is very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The menus, very reminiscent to Persona 5 or Metaphor. There's even a musical sting that is a straight ripoff of the 2 Xanarkand piano music from Final Fantasy X. Clair Obscur doesn't do enough to make it its own. And so instead of feeling like a unique thing, it just feels like a less good imitation of some of the greatest games in the genre. And I think that's why it's still so great, because it is essentially trying to mimic the greatest games in the genre. But if you've played all those games, you can identify that and then see where Expedition 33 doesn't quite reach the same highs that those games had. So it's not that I didn't like the game, it's just I don't understand the insane response it's getting. For whatever reason, this game has really hit a chord with the general gaming public. And that's what makes this game so weird to me. This is exactly what I want. I just don't think it's as amazing as everybody is saying it is. But at the same time, I think it's a game that needs to be celebrated. Games these days just aren't the same. Games these days feel like they have lost their soul. So many games are just designed to drain money out of you or get you addicted to a really not that great gameplay loop. Whereas Clair Obscur just oozes passion. The people who made this game wanted to make this game. It is a full game. There's nothing missing. There's nothing in a season pass. There's nothing paywalled. There's nothing clearly left out for DLC. This is a complete game, and it's sad that that's something that we don't just get these days. And so this also feels like something that does need to be celebrated. So I'm happy that it's getting the response it's getting, even if I don't necessarily think it meets the response that it's getting. I will say, if this is a game you liked and this is not the genre you normally play, please give some of these other games a shot. Final Fantasy X, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Legend of Dragoon, if you want to go back to the PS1, the old Final Fantasies. Clair Obscur so clearly is inspired by all of those and is, in a sense, an homage to all of those. There's nothing wrong with it not being as good as the best games in the genre. It is an absolutely gripping and engaging game in spite of its shortcomings, in spite of some of its clunkier menus or poor pacing with its narrative. I still didn't want to stop playing it until I beat it. And given the game's visual style, it's not hard to stay in the canvas for just a little bit longer. What do you think? Does Clair Obscur Expedition 33 live up to the hype? Let me know in the comments down below. Is it your game of the year? It's still probably mine. If you liked the video, be sure to like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you all with the next video.